because I want to keep it in the spirit of what I think demos should be, which is incredibly unpolished and unprepared. So please jump in with questions. I did not do anything to prepare for this aside from open a new browser window. So I joined a company called Lattice, Lattice.XYZ. We make on-chain game tooling and have kind of an in-house game studio as well that's like building out some stuff, dog fooding our own products and things. There's a really good post on this blog called Autonomous Worlds, and worth reading to just kind of get a sense for how we kind of think about like on-chain games and on-chain worlds generally, and the kind of like things being on-chain means you've kind of unlocked this like common API and common place for people to tap into and extend and stuff. And so we're trying to like best represent that in the like frameworks and tools that we build. So the main instantiation of that is a little framework called MUD. It's built on top of this notion of ECS, Entity Component System, which is common in the game world, game development world. It's basically a I don't know, architecture and data modeling pattern, kind of like MVC or something. I'm not going to go into it too much, but the gist is that entities are essentially just an ID. It's just like a thing that exists in the world. A component is like an attribute or a value that's associated with that entity, and a system is a thing that updates those component values for given entities. So you can imagine like in a world where there's a bunch of stuff on the screen, like you can think about every single one of those things, like whether it's terrain or like a creature or your player, those are all entities and they have different attributes that make them into the terrain or the player or the creatures. So there's a bunch of docs here that we're kind of like continuing to work on. There's kind of a lot of stuff to describe, but I think the main thing that MUD provides sort of out of the box is if you follow the ECS paradigm and some of the like interfaces that MUD provides, you kind of get a ton of stuff out of the box for free. So like this whole networking layer, this kind of like reactive staying in sync thing. So when you write your applications, all the data flowing from the chain is sort of automatically consumed, updated, and tools to like reach into that and either grab the current state or kind of react as state changes. So a way to best demonstrate that is a tutorial, which is what I've been working on in the last month or so. So when you first create a MUD app, you get something that looks like this. This is just really basic to show you the, let's see, the very low level fundamentals of the entity component system. So sorry, let me just figure out where I am. Okay, so we have a component that's called counter. The component lives on this entity called the singleton entity. It's just like a global entity where you have like, I don't know, config or whatever. This just makes it easy for us to see like one counter for everyone. And I hit the increment button and it increments. I can pop up in a new tab. And in fact, let me do this. Can hit this button and you can see it update live over here. So this is publishing a transaction to a local chain, and this is receiving that update via an event stream that automatically knows what to do. So it's like I'm asking for the component value, but ultimately what happens is it's passing through this big architecture that is MUD and I don't know, gives you the value automatically. So it's very intuitive for using inside of React. The tutorial ultimately though, let me get back to complete. The other neat thing about MUD is we're working on the CLI it's a new thing, the CLI, but it includes this notion of hot reloading. So you can update a contract, like a system contract. It will automatically detect the changes, deploy the new changes, update this like world contract that is kind of the container for everything. And then kind of inject everything needed so that the client automatically reloads. So having just started up the server, I got taken into the client, which is bound to this world address. And so this is the kind of completed to the Emojimon tutorial, which I'm working on currently. Basically a demonstration of mud as if you were building like a little Pokemon game. So you start by spawning into the world, just like clicking anywhere, and you can, you're a little monster rancher. You can wander around. Let's see if I can zoom in. Wander around, and the world is made up of a bunch of different tiles, and each tile is effectively an entity. And for example, the trees are entities, the rocks are entities, my player's an entity. And with the entity component system, we can model things like obstruction. So an obstruction is just like this Boolean component. It's basically like a flag, like, is it an obstruction or is it not an obstruction? And we tie that to this position or where this boulder is. So I can't actually, like, I'm tapping my down arrow and I can't actually move into this boulder because it's an obstruction. And likewise for the trees, they're called tall grass. And basically that enables you, anytime you move, there's a chance that you kind of can spawn an encounter. And so this little encounter animation kicks off, and then you get a little monster that you have to kind of battle in a Pokemon Go style. There's no like attacking or anything. It's just like you throw a Pokeball and you hope you catch it. Otherwise, you can run. So I'm going to run in this case. So I ran away. All these operations are fully on chain. So movement, everything is fully on chain. The reason it looks and feels so fast is because there's optimistic rendering involved too. That's a thing that's kind of like native to Mud, is easy to wire up. So everything looks like it's live. And then I can also pop up in a new browser for this.
While you're browsing, the chat is very much enjoying this eagle and the animations and the on-chain game in general. So
great. So I can spawn. Actually, I think I need a private tab. Hang on. So if I spawn here, you'll see on this other one that I've got this other little player in the world. And as I move around, it's updating. On the left side, this is just receiving blockchain events as they're being published, and our local node. And I believe also the testnet that we run is a 1 second block time. So it's quite fast. That has repercussions downstream when you're running Anvil, because Anvil's logs fill up, and then you have like 20 gigabytes that have been eaten by you start running out of disk for some reason. It's weird. We're working on fixing that, but I have another change coming that will actually add optimistic rendering to both sides. So it'll look at the mempool, and you can get almost instantaneous I don't know, rendering between the two clients. So yeah, let's go into another sort of battle. Just wandering around this tall grass. I can throw a ball. Oh, I caught it. That was lucky. And sometimes you miss. You caught it. And if I would have missed one more time, the Emojimon would have run away. So yeah, that's basically it. It's pretty neat to dig into. I'll be writing a full tutorial on this. So if anyone's interested in actually like digging in or following along on how to build this thing, it kind of walks you through every step. You can kind of see in the Git log, we have all these different steps that add different things. They're just like little bite-sized pieces to kind of introduce you to how to build with Mud. And the thing that I'm really excited about is this, let's see, this last commit, which is make it massively multiplayer. And it's kind of the demonstration a bit of Mud and blockchains generally, but like, I wish every game you could make massively multiplayer with such a small diff. Let's see. So in this, we've modeled players as a player component, and every player has a position if they're like on the map. And so all we do is query for other players. And we're doing this entity query. This is like a hook that we provide. And basically asking the world or the entity component system, give me all the entities that are a player and have a position. We filter out our own player entity, and then we get the position for them. And then down here, we render them on the client. Yeah, that's basically it. I could go into a lot more depth, but I think the tutorial will do a much better job of that, and I don't have a lot of time. So any questions?
Excellent. It's excellent. Yeah, we have a couple of questions for you. I will relay. Danube asked, what chains do you anticipate most MUD games to run on? Is Ethereum too expensive?
Yeah, so right now the kind of assumption in MUD is don't worry about gas and also 1 second block times. So running MUD on mainnet is kind of a bad idea. I think like just to update a component value is like, I don't know how much gas, like in the hundreds of thousands, I think, maybe even millions for a system call or something. But yeah, quite expensive, meant to be run on L2, if not L3. We're kind of in the process of both exploring running our own chains and what does it look like in the world of a rollup running like app specific chains. So if like Emojimon were an official game or something, we would put out an Emojimon chain that it's sort of highly tuned for running a game like this built on top of MUD. And then that the whatever values we decide are important could roll up into like an L2, like Optimism or something like that. And then be kind of like real assets or whatever. There's a separate stream that's like, how do we make MUD more efficient in terms of gas? And I don't know if we will ever get to mainnet as far as like gas efficiency. I still think that it'd be, there's a lot going on and a lot of like layering and threading through that makes things all the calls very gassy. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that that is a thing eventually. There's also another thing that we're looking to explore soon, which is building non-game sort of applications on top of MUD. And what would that look like? Is it like feasible? Does the data model make sense? And using that to inform whether or not like, are we just doubling down on games, or are we kind of expanding the API service area to support any kind of application?
Fascinating. One last question from Eli. What is the most promising game using MUD so far, apart from your tutorial, obviously?
There's been a bunch built in the, there was an autonomous worlds residency last year, I think through like November, December. I think it was like either 1 month or 3 months. I think it was 1 month in London, where a bunch of people came to London and stayed and hacked on stuff with MUD. So there were a bunch of really neat demos that came out of that. I can share a talk that's on YouTube that I think it was like the demo day recording basically of all the stuff. And there's some like really, really fun and cool stuff there. And then we're working on a game called Sky Strife. But if you want to be involved, it's kind of a real-time strategy, like resource management style game. It's designed to have pretty quick matches, and just starting to add in the components that let you like win items in the game and take them out of the game and then bring them back in. So you can like have little power-ups that you collect throughout your gameplay, bring them out and then take them back in when you go into the next match. Yeah, this is broken because someone had already won, and yeah. But it's kind of like a capture the flag in the center, but like resource management until you get to that place. And we're running play tests, I think aiming to run them like once a week starting this Sunday. So if you're interested, I guess pop into some channel in Def and ping me.
Rock and roll. We are low on time and tight on demos, so I have to cut off any further questions. But thank you so much. This is super, super cool.